What up? We're back. UFC 297, Strickland versus Plessis. And we got the usual crew back here to break it all down for you Saturday morning. Big day of sports, NFL playoffs, UFC. Kind of a lackluster card for a pay-per-view event, but we're going to break it down anyway. Excited to be back with the usual crew. I'm Draft Sheet, of course, joined today, as always, by Red Kachik, JSU, and the one and only Mad Lab, fired up today as usual, ready to bring the heat. Give me his strong opinions on everything, ranging from NFL quarterback MVPs to fights to who knows what else will come up on the show. We're happy to be here. Happy you're joining us, and we're gonna get to it. We'll throw it to you first, Mad Lab. How you doing on this Saturday morning?
I'm good. I thought when it said Mike was muted, I thought you did it on purpose because I started talking.
It auto mutes during the intro.
I'm good, man. This is like a beautiful day for me, bro. We got MMA, even though the card isn't that good, but we got my 49ers and Brock Purdy, who's gonna fucking literally light up everybody that doubted him today, starting today. So if you guys listen to me and you put your futures in at plus 1,000 for the Niners to win the Super Bowl, hold on to that ticket. Don't be a pussy and don't hedge.
I love it. I've got no problem with the 49ers winning the Super Bowl. I do think they're the rightful favorite, the way I see it. So, yeah, should be a fun game with the Packers today. I think you're going to see a lot of offense in that one. Maybe less so in the first game between the Ravens and the Texans. We'll go to you next, JSU. I know you're excited for all the sports today. How you doing on the Saturday morning?
Yeah, I mean, this is the best day. This is like one of the best days of the year. You get NFL, MMA, there's NBA, and you can pick your choice with sports. If you got like 5 TVs in the house, like me, then you can literally have a sport on each one of them, and it's just fucking great. So yeah, I'm gonna enjoy my day of sports. I'm gonna talk with you donkeys about some MMA, and then I'm gonna go and talk some football with Tony at 3. If you're a premium member, you can check that show out. We're gonna do that at 3 Eastern. So. It's going to be a lot of slates for football. If you're playing football, they've got the 2-gamer, the 4-gamer, the showdown, kind of like last week. So we'll have all that covered, and it's going to be a fun day. No pussies here, Mad Lab. We hold those tickets. There's no pussies on this show.
Well, I'm not saying you guys, but I'm saying there's a lot of guys. You know those guys. They're like, oh, this one's going to win the Super Bowl. Then they lose. Now this one's going to win the fucking Super Bowl. Then they lose. Then this one's going to win the Super Bowl. Stick to one fucking team. I had 3 futures in this year. I had Michigan to win the national championship, hit. I had Niners to win the NFC. It's going to hit. The Niners to win the Super Bowl. It's going to hit. I'm going to be 3 for 3 on future tickets. If you guys want another future ticket, throw in the Knicks to win the Eastern Conference. Thank you.
No. All right. That's it. Timeout. We were on board with everything you just said until you started talking basketball, and that's it. You heard it. Not betting the Knicks to win the Eastern Conference. No, absolutely.
I'll say it right now. Julius Randle, as good as DFS guy as he is, he's not going to the finals. Not this year. Not
Julius,
not any other
the
year.
Knicks are going to the finals.
Listen, I've been watching the Knicks for 100 years, bro. OG brings back that old scout Anthony, Charles Barkley, that Oakley.
The Knicks are not beating the Celtics. They're not beating the Bucks. They're not beating the Sixers.
They're not beating the Pacers. They're not beating the Pacers.
Remember what I'm saying this on this show. Put your Eastern Conference tickets in for the Knicks. Just put them in. A little wager. And thank me later.
Yeah, don't do that.
I usually put the losing bets in at the end of the year to hedge the taxes, but
wrong time.
Knicks, are you kidding me? You started off with the damn Knicks.
He brings back that whole Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley style to the Knicks, dude. He does. He makes everybody play better.
This is classic regular season.
They were
New
close.
York Knicks.
Come on, they had to go against guys like Olajuwon and.
Yeah,
dude, it's
good
the
players
regular
in the NBA
season.
now too. So.
It's going to be different when the postseason, comes into swing and all these stars fucking turn on, and you got Julius Randle and they got Giannis and Halliburton and Jason Tatum and Joel Embiid, and you got to deal with those fucking guys. Worry about beating like the Hawks in round 1. Something like that.
I got to bring this show back on track because we'll be here till the start of the MMA
I'm writing
card.
that down, though. I'm remembering that Mad Lab told us to bet the Knicks to the championship. I'm remembering that.
I'm remembering. like
We're
that.
gonna that brings better takes fights today than Knicks to the east to the finals, because that's not happening. Drew, took us a few minutes, no surprise there. We'll throw it to you. You probably won't talk as long as these guys. I appreciate that personality. How you doing on the Saturday morning?
Yeah, doing good. The toughest part on these Saturdays is figuring out which days I want to triple my crowns or whatever bullshit we have to do this year. I
fired one today. I fired
a
a crown boost today. So now I'm going to play way more than I should and end up in extra.
We got the crown boost, and I got an MMA promo for 5x the crowns today too. So check your promos. You might.
I got that as well. It led me to I play in 150 in the mini max. So yeah, hopefully we'll pick some winners on the show.
Oh shit! I thought it was only 3 boosts. I see a 4th boost in my account. What's going on here? Is there 4 boosts a month? Well,
at least you don't have to suffer through the min prize chest every week now.
Well, yeah, that was good thing I could look forward to every week. But I will say, I think Mad Lab owes us a shoey, but I see he's going to be hopping to other people's houses, so he never has to follow up on that bet.
Well, come on, bro. You guys are the ones who bailed out on the show last week. I was ready.
Well. That's all I got. That's it.
I forgot about that. I forgot.
I owe a shoey due to the.
Who else owes a shoey?
I do.
But all right, so next week, DC, we got.
I gotta wait till January's over, and then I'll be.
Get the fuck out of here, January.
I'm not breaking my dry January on January 27th with a shoey. That's just not gonna happen. So
you might as well be from Utah.
30 days of not drinking going to do, and then you're gonna go out and be a mort divam with the alcohol.
Probably a lot for me, to be honest. So we'll leave it at that. We'll get into these fights. We'll start with the first fight of the night. It is Malcolm X Gordon against Jimmy Flick. Gordon, moderate favorite here, sitting around -200, depending on where you look, -198, the best current line available over at DraftKings. A little bit of a clash of styles here, I think, Mad Lab, but first fight of the night. We've got 12 fights to talk about. Talk to us, Gordon and Jimmy Flick.
Yeah, I mean, usually I don't like playing the first fight of the night a lot. Like it kind of, if you lose, sometimes it hinges your night. But this is a fight that it's priced where it's hard to kind of ignore it. You have Gordon at 8,300, who decent striker, also a good grappler. People are focal pointing too much on Flick's grappling, but Gordon is a pretty good grappler. But very, very durability issues on both sides here. You got Flick, who's got a horrendous chin. Good grappling. He's not afraid to jump for flying triangles and pull guard and stuff like that. But if you catch him on his chin, I don't care what your power index is, you can knock this guy out. So there's that issue on his side. And then you got Flick. If he does land one of those crazy attacks, those crazy triangles, he can absolutely submit Gordon. So you look at these guys priced at 8,300, 7,900. They're like right in the middle of the sandwich. You know, it's a hard fight not to at least give some interest. I do like Gordon just because Flick's chin, and he's been looking terrible since he's been back. But it's a coin flip for me because, like I said, both of these guys can catch each other at any given moment. I'm just leaning a little bit more towards Gordon. I did see the line really start shifting in Gordon's favor too. So the public is on board with that. So, you know, I'm definitely going to have some shares of this fight, probably a little bit more than I usually do for the first fight of the night, but I'm definitely leaning Gordon's way.
Yeah, I lean that way too, JSU. The one thing that concerns me for DFS, Gordon is not a high volume striker, right? And so he's got to put him out early, I think, to put up a big score, even at that kind of mid-tier price tag. Kind of, I don't know, a little bit lukewarm on this fight. We'll see what Drew has for the numbers. I could see myself coming in maybe close to the field on more so Gordon and maybe a little under on Flick. What do you see here, JSU, Malcolm Gordon, Jimmy Flick?
Yeah, I mean, like the worry is like it's kind of a slow first round. Jimmy somehow gets out of the first round. I mean, even like last fight against Costa, I mean, his leg was just absolutely beat up, but he gets out of the round. He sits back, okay, like whatever. And then he gets finished in the second round. Like if that happens with Gordon, I don't know how he's probably not going to score amazing, but on this card, I think you take it at his price tag, a finish at 8,300. I think you'll take anyways. And man, there's 2 fights on this card, and this is one of them where one, I can see both sides finishing the other. One, because Gordon is a good grappler too, and that's where Jimmy can win. Jimmy can't win, I don't think, on his feet. Malcolm needs to keep this fight on his feet and just literally just try and strike with him. If he tries to grapple with him, though, that's where Jimmy could have the slight edge. Even though Gordon is a decent grappler, he's Jimmy still probably has that advantage. So for Gordon, you want him to keep this on the feet. And if he keeps it on the feet, I think he wins probably in the second round by knockout. But, if this does go to the ground, that's advantage Jimmy, in my opinion. So I could see either side winning. I've been going back and forth. Like I said, there's 2 fights where I've gone back and forth because I could see either side winning. But I get Mad Lab's side with Gordon. And you know what? Honestly, I might flip and just go Gordon because he's got both paths. But, man, Jimmy just has no chin. And I can see the second round just him getting KO'd. So I'm going to lean Gordon here.
Yeah, I've got one bet in for this fight. It's Gordon to win via KO in the third round. You can get that at 19-1 over at FanDuel. I just think with this low volume, he could win this fight kind of at any point, right? Because he throws so few punches that maybe it takes him to the third round to land clean on Flick. And when he does, I do think Flick is going to go out. Let's go over to you, Drew. What do you got for the numbers between these two and your pick for the fight? Muted, Drew. Come on. First fight of the night. You're on the mute button.
That's what it takes, man. Takes a dry January to get back in the swing of things. Yeah. So Malcolm Gordon,
you just start drinking, Drew. You just start drinking, my friend.
I'm about to. All right. So Malcolm Gordon, I got at 40%, and Flick I have at 13%.
Wow.
And honestly, I think Gordon's actually underowned based on his finishing upside and his price. I think at 8,300, he's like at a pivotal salary spot. He's going to win if you look at the spread on the money line to his inside the distance number, he's winning 90% of all of his wins are going to be inside the distance in this fight. So I think the upside is still there, even at 40%. So I would not worry about the ownership. Flick is really interesting though. At 13%, if you're building, 10, 20, 150 lineups, Flick would be someone I would not fade. I think at 13%, that's a massive spot to leverage because he is going to likely win inside the distance via submission, like JSU just said. So yeah, first fight of the night. I think Gordon's, kind of a home run play in a sense. I would not worry about the ownership. Just slam it at 8,300.
Makes sense there. I will note this fight card does take place in Canada, and we've got a bunch of Canadian fighters on the card. So I don't know, potential judging fiascos. That's true every card in the UFC, but I do think it's potentially more prevalent in this one. We'll go to the next fight on the card, and it is the biggest favorite. The 2 biggest favorites on the card actually are both in the women's division, but the first one we'll talk about is Jasmine Jaduvicious versus Priscilla Cachoeira. It is Jaduvicious, big favorite, minus 400 or so, a little bit higher on some sites. Back to you, Mad Lab. What do you see between Jasmine and Priscilla?
Yeah, I understand why she's a favorite here. I don't put a price tag like this on anybody like her. I don't care who she's fighting. It's just JJ had some good spots. She had some bad spots. She's a good wrestler. She's aggressive. But at the end of the day, $9,500 price tags, they've always said that belong to the elite people. They belong to the – I don't look at people like this, no matter who she fights, and says, yeah, she's a 9,500 categorized fighter. So I have trouble with that. Do I agree in the side? Yeah. But Cachoeira, a lot of people have these nicknames for her, Catch a Beating and all this other crap. And yeah, do I think she's UFC material? Probably not. No, but she's not like a horrible fighter where she's going to just work her way completely out of a fight. I'm torn on this fight because I could see 2 ways this fight goes. I could see a fight where JJ wins the fight, but Catch keeps it surprisingly close, or I could see JJ literally walking through her and just either dominate her to a point where they stop the fight, or she could possibly, finish the fight in top control. So I'm torn on this price tag, which makes me step onto her a little bit, but also step off on her a little bit. So I like her here. I'm going to play her, but I'm probably going to play her with a little bit of caution.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. 9,500 for JSU it's a big price tag for a fighter who is not necessarily expected to finish the fight. And even when you look at her wins, when it goes completely her way, right, against Miranda Maverick, where she gets or Fernandez rather, where she gets 4 takedowns, 12 minutes and 30 seconds of control time, and still only puts up 105 fantasy points, which may or may not get the job done at that $9,500 price tag. So Yeah, biggest favorite on the card. I get that, and I do think she wins this fight. But does she do enough at that price tag to get on the winner? That I'm not sure of. What are your thoughts here, JSU?
Yeah, you just don't have like that volume type takedown in Jaduvicious. And again, that is her path. Like you see with most of the fighters, when Catera is losing, that's the path to beating her. Just get her down and then try and find a submission, or, keep her kind of controlled. And that is one thing. Listen, I mean, I told you guys during that Miranda Maverick fight when everyone was on Maverick and Jazz was the massive dog. And I said, Jazz is better. She's better. She's better wrestler. She's better on the ground. She's going to do it more. She's going to, and she did. And that was clear. And then Maverick goes and beats Catera. So to me, it's just, okay, now you're just taking someone who's already beat Maverick, who's better than Maverick. Maverick just finished Catera. I mean, Jazz could definitely finish her. It's just a matter of, position. She's more of a position type, stays out, and then does she try to play with her on the feet a little bit? That's a bad idea, because you can always get caught. So I like her, but at the same time for DFS, does she give me the upside that I feel confident at 9,500? No, she does not. So I struggle hitting that $9,500 price tag, and I probably won't be on any Jazz on this slate. It's too heavy of a price tag for me. She needs to either finish in the first minute, or she needs 3 rounds of control, takedowns, and then finish at the very end of the fight. Almost you need it to go your way perfectly.
Yeah, I agree with that for the most part. I do think on this particular card, we might not see as high scoring as we usually do, right? For one, there's fewer fights, and two, I think a lot of dogs are very, very live. So yeah, that's JSQ's take on Jaduvicious and Catera. Let's go to you, Drew. What do you have for the numbers between these two?
Yeah, I got Jasmine at 31%, and I have Priscilla at 10%. I think Jasmine's a terrible play. I think there is an avenue where she gets the control time. She gets a couple takedowns around and gets the control time over the course of 3 rounds. But still, you're spending up 9,500. I think there's only 4 fighters over 9K. You can probably get 3 fighters over 8,500 that score as high or higher than her, and you're saving salary and you're building a little bit better lineup from a floor standpoint too. So I think Jasmine, in the context of this slate, is a terrible play. I think people are still going to get exposure to her based on her projections across the industry. So I would watch that. But yeah, I don't see myself playing any Jasmine. I just don't see a path where that is going to work out as much as she's owned. I mean, 31% is still pretty hefty for not finishing this fight.
Yeah, it seems a little steep to me. What'd you say Priscilla's ownership was? 10?
10, yeah. That's a sprinkle in like 150.
Yeah, I think so.
I still think it's really thin for even 20 max. I think that's a 150-ish number to play Priscilla.
I would, guys too, when you guys are setting your lineups, don't get baited into that trap that you need to utilize all your money. It's very easy to jump to, because there's so many fighters in this card that you can get at reasonable price tags that you can pretty much set any lineup you want to set. So don't get baited in because you have all this money left that you have to go to JJ. If there's money left over, there's money left over. So try to have that mindset when setting your lineups today.
100% agree with that. You can leave a bunch of money on the table and have a winning lineup potentially in MMA today. Next fight on the card, we do have a fight that's expected to big favorite to finish inside the distance. It is Johan Lless, minus 140 or so over Sam Patterson. But this fight is minus 500 to go inside the distance, something like that. So it should be fireworks in this one. Let's start with you, Mad Lab. Lless and Patterson, what do you got for us here?
Yeah, so Patterson's a guy who got kind of caught into the JJ trap in his thing. They had him labeled as $9,500 fighter. He's another guy, coming out of debut. And he what is it called? He shit the bed. You know what I mean?
So now flatlined is what he got, Mad Lab.
I'm saying he was one of those guys in that spot. You know what I mean? He was one of those guys in that high bracket spot coming on a debut. Everybody kind of bought into it. He was a highly owned guy, biggest price guy on the card. And look what happened. So that's a perfect example for you. But in this fight, he's fighting a guy in Lyonnaise, who I know is Canadian. I know what the UFC is trying to do. They're trying to fill the card up with Canadians, but he's not good. Like, both of these guys are really, really low level to the point where I don't know what the UFC is trying to do. I don't know if they're throwing these guys in there for like a cockfight to say whoever loses is out. We'll work on the winner next, or if they're trying to get Patterson a victory here to see if like maybe he just had a bad showing. I don't know what their approach here is, but 8,400, 7,800, both of these guys have the ability to finish one another. I mean, Lyonnaise does have power. He can crash the pocket. Patterson is coming up in weight in this fight. And then you have Patterson, who's going to be the longer fighter, does have power. He can finish the fight too. So it's really the what evil do you like? You know, do you want to go with the Canadian, the smaller, Canadian guy, or do you want to go with the guy who's fighting a little bit longer, coming off a loss that needs to get his back against off the wall? So, I mean, I'm going to lean Patterson slightly here, but I really have no pull on this. I'd be very, very careful on how you choose this fight.
You think this fight is rightfully like that minus 500 to finish inside the distance? It seems that's a really big number, Mad Lad. You feel that's justified?
I don't think it's justified. I think they're backing that off of Patterson getting clipped the way he did. I do think he is chinny. I really, really do. And Lyonnaise does have some good power. But if he can fight long and keep his chin out of space, you don't know. Like, I don't know what to expect from this kid. I really don't know what to expect from this kid. I know what Lyonnaise is going to do. He's going to crash the pocket. That's the only way he's going to be able to get inside. But as far as how Patterson approaches this, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to make of this kid yet. I didn't see a big enough sample size.
Yeah, that's fair. Jesse, I mean, if you believe that line, right, that it's so heavily favored to finish inside the distance, it's almost hard not to have a bunch of exposure to this fight because they're reasonably priced. And if one gets to finish inside the distance, they're probably going to score pretty well. But yeah, I'm kind of with Mad Lab, not sure what to expect here. And yeah, it kind of feels like like you're just like rolling the dice on this fight. But your thoughts, Jesse, on Lless and Patterson?
Yeah, one guy that wasn't baited into Sam Patterson in that spot was JSU when he told you that Ashmus was going to do that to him and knock his fucking ass out. My 5'8" brother and did it to that tall bat. See, we don't take tall motherfuckers on this show, Mad Lab. I just want to let you know, before you came on here, this was a short person versus tall person. You always took the short guy to knock out the tall guy. That's just how it goes. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how it goes. So Sam Patterson, he's not good. I said it before that fight when I said he's probably going to get knocked out. Gets knocked out by the guy that actually, Ashman is pretty good. Like, he's not bad. You know what I mean? He wasn't that bad, but I don't think Patterson is UFC type, and Lless is not good. I agree with Mad Lab. He's going to crash the pocket, and he's going to test Patterson early. If you watch like all of his fights too, Mad Lab, you'll see like the difference. Like Gabe Green, it's almost like he started with the leg kicks, almost like saying, I'm going to like take my time. He tried the leg kicks for a while, and then he's just like, screw it. You know what I mean? And he wobbled Gabe Green twice. But in the end, his cardio, Gabe Green just outlasted him, and his cardio went out at the end of the second round, and that was it. Once his cardio hit, he was done, and Gabe Green just pummeled them. Then you get the Malott fight where he couldn't get his timing, his range. He couldn't touch Malott. So then he gets mad and charges the pocket because he's pissed. He throws a big right. Malott catches him, brings him down, and then the fight's over in a minute and a half after he got him down. So, it's one of those fights where which one wins out? Can Patterson stay at range? I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be either Lless crashes the pocket and gets the finish early, or he gasses out and Patterson can withstand the crashes, and then Patterson can win late. So I like, if I'm betting Lless early, first round knockout. But if you like Patterson, I think taking a shot on him like in the third round to finish this fight isn't a bad shot here, because I
that's
think
a good live betting spot.
Yeah, it's definitely a live betting spot for sure, because both fighters aren't good. I agree with Madlab there. Both fighters are definitely not good. I'll take Lless, but yeah, I mean, DFS, I think the price tags just put them in play.
You have okay. It sounds like you'll have exposure to both these guys.
My lean for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Early finish obviously gets them there at that price tag.
Yeah.
Drew, what do you have for the numbers and your pick between these two?
Yep, I got Johan at 32% and 19% for Patterson. Yeah, I think you got to have exposure to this fight. I definitely
I like those numbers for both of them, honestly.
It's good, especially for the inside the distance number. I don't know if people give enough respect to that. Like when you see the inside the distance number for both almost matches their money line number, this fight's going to finish. I mean, if it doesn't, then Vegas lost the money. But I lean Johan because of the round 1 or round 2 finish upside. He's 36% implied in round 1. He's 53% implied for round 1 or round 2. So, like, I think Johan has a little bit more upside. Obviously, he's a steeper price, a little more ownership. But, yeah, Patterson's still in play. And I think at the ownership, you can match the field and feel pretty comfortable. But another one of those fights, you kind of just, you play both sides and, lean into Johan, and then you get lucky on the finishing upside. But they're both priced where if they finish, man, you're going to need them.
Yeah, 100% with you on that. We'll move to the next fight. Being Aaron Chad, always looking for attention, isn't he, JSU? He's always got to be chirping, trying to.
I'm gonna ignore that fucking cup. Yeah.
I'm
just gonna fucking ignore him. He's probably fucking like 3 foot fucking tall. He probably fucking has a fucking little thimble for a penis. I'm just gonna ignore him today.
I love how Mad Lab calls him McNair. McNair. Listen.
That's what his name is. McNair. Brandon McNair.
I know, but in our chat, it's Benair, like is his Discord name, so we all know him as Benair. But I do love how you call him McNair.
His nickname for me now is fucking Cocknair.
I think Mad Lab I think he is tall. I think he's really skinny.
I don't give a fuck what he is. I'll smack his tits off his chest.
Wouldn't be a Saturday MMA show without some Mad Lab McNair back and forth. I'm sure that's not the last we'll hear from Mr. Air McNair, but we'll move on to the next fight on the card. Jillian Robertson sitting around -300 over Polyana Vianna. Kind of a clash of styles here, I think. We know what Jillian Robertson wants to do. The big lay and pray is her strategy for most fights. I think that'll be the way she goes about it here if she can. Back to you, Mad Lab, Robertson, and Vianna. What do you got?
She's the most frustrating fighter I think I've experienced in a long time because she's got such a good grappling game and she's so young. Like, think about how long she's fighting. She's only 28 years old. Like, it's crazy how young she is still, you know. But her coach, man, Din Thomas, this is a guy who he lives and dies with the grappling. She's already got slug it down here. She's already got good grappling, but the problem is he will not, for any reason, put her striking down. Put her grappling down and work on her striking. She's got horrendous striking. And it's coming to the point now where the people are starting to see, like, this is the blueprint. Stay on your feet, and you win this fight. You know, so why he hasn't fixed that with her, I have no idea. But the fact of the matter is here, she's fighting a girl who likes to grapple too. You know, so she's kind of getting what she wants in this fight, which can be a blessing and a curse at the same time. I don't agree with her price tag at 9,100 here because she is so up and down. But when she gets her game rolling, when she gets what she wants, she can blow that fucking price. Robinson's won me a lot of tournaments in the past because a lot of people going with her saying, she doesn't get it to the ground. She's got no striking. But when she gets her grappling game actually rolling, the transitions and the submission attempts are there. You know, so this is like, I've always had this love-hate relationship with her where I can't go all in on her, but I have to be in enough on her. So that's what I'm doing here, the same thing. I like her here. I think she does have upside for a submission. She just has to get the fight to the floor. If she gets to the fight to the floor, those points are going to start rolling in. You know, so it's kind of boom or bust always with her. She's either going to win a tournament or she's not going to win you shit. So that brings me in like 1 foot in, 1 foot out with her. But I do like her. I do think she has upside to sub Vianna here.
Let me ask you a question, Malott. Vianna, 3 of her last 4 wins have come via submission. All 3 of those submissions were in the first round. Is she a threat off her back here if Robertson does get the takedowns? Or is this a situation where Vianna's going to just like accept the takedowns and kind of get pummeled off her back? I could kind of see it going both ways. You have a lean on that one?
Yeah, I think she's got upside. She's got upside to catch, Robertson with something, but Robertson's grappling is really, really good. I don't know if you guys watched the grappling circuit at all, but Robertson grappled Rose Namajunas in a grappling tournament around 6 months ago and literally just fucking destroyed her. Like literally destroyed her in like a minute. You know what I mean? So her grappling's really, really, really like she's a legit black belt in BJJ. So
you would be surprised if she got submitted by Vianna?
I would be surprised if Jillian Robertson got submitted by Vianna.
Yeah, that's essentially my question there. JC, let's go to you. Vianna and Robertson, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I like Jillian here. I like Jillian to get the submission. I just think Vianna, if she tries anything like that, I think she's going to get caught. And, Jillian's fine off her back. Like, I just think it's a bad spot for Vianna, honestly. And I think Jillian's going to get the sub here. It is unfortunate that, like, she is just kind of sub or bust in a way. But that's just, you know what she is. You know what you're taking in that 9,100. You're hoping for, 100. Something like that. I don't think she's going to she's not getting the big score because listen, it's not like she's got like amazing takedowns or anything like that. So she's not scoring you a ton in that perspective. It would just be they find themselves in a grappling exchange. She gets it down. Maybe she controls her a little bit and then she finds the submission. You're hoping for an early sub. So that's the way, or that's her path to hitting her price tag. 9,100 is a lot, but I do like her to win, and I do like her to finish. So she's in the pool, for sure.
Yeah, for me too. I like Jillian Robertson quite a bit today. Drew, what do you have the numbers in your pick between these two?
Yeah, I got Jillian at 32% and Vianna at 11%. So I think Jillian's a pretty strong play. The submission number stands out the most to me. I'm not so concerned with inside the distance. I think even if she doesn't get a submission, she could still have the takedowns and the control time. So I like Jillian at 9,100. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then Vianna, honestly, at 11% at 7,100, I think she's going to get squeezed a bit. I think she could come in lower than that, and I wouldn't mind some exposure just for a submission. That's basically what I want to go for Vianna. But otherwise, I think Jillian's my pick to win, obviously. But from a DFS standpoint, I do think Vianna's a good play if she's going to be 11% or less.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I do think she's somewhat live there. Let's go to the next fight on the card. It's a rematch. These two fought in the Contender Series, had a horrible stoppage. It is Serhi Sidi and Ramon Taveras. Sidi minus 185 in this one. Both of these guys making their official UFC debut. We'll start with you again, Mad Lab. Sidi, Taveras, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so hold on, guys. Not this fucking toy. So when you look at this fight, the reason why it's priced the way it is 8,900 is, it was a terrible stoppage. This is why they're having a rematch, which I'm glad they're having a rematch. Guys, can you hear that? Is that bothering you? No?
We're good. Keep going.
So, he did drop him. You know what I mean? And if you look at the rematch, usually in rematches that are like gapped, where they had a couple fights in between, that's when you kind of start reassessing things. You start saying, look, both of these guys evolved. Let's see where they are now. But this is such a rematch, literally back to back, where you look, yes, terrible stoppage, but we saw the way it was transpiring. You know what I mean? So they had his number in this fight. The problem with this fight is Taveras now came in overweight, and there is a number, and I'm not big on numbers, you guys know that, but there is a stat that like over 70% of people that come in overweight usually win the fight. You know what I mean? So that brings it a little tighter for me. I'm torn on this fight. I am going today. I don't believe that there's enough adjustments to be made on Taveras' side to eliminate what Sidi did to him in the first fight. But I don't like that price tag. Like that $8,900 price tag, I don't like that price tag. I think this thing should be a little closer than it is. But, I'll be in on this fight a little bit, but not enough to have to be on my main lineup. It's not going to be like definitely a main lineup fight for me. But I do lean list Sidi.
Makes sense. Mad Labs today over Taveras. JSU, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the Contender Series and I went back and watched that fight just to make sure I was sure on it. And it's not like Taveras did anything where you were like, oh wow, like he's there, like he was fine, but like the stoppage came because he clearly got dropped, and maybe he stumbled a little bit. He got hit once, and then he kind of took a step, and he kind of stumbled a little, but then he hit him again. And before that, Taveras you could tell they were like talking a little right before it. And Taveras he drops his hands a little bit. Sidi's a little tighter. I think he's just all around the cleaner, smoother striker in that standpoint. And I don't know. the weight cut seems that seems like on purpose, right, Mad Lab? Like that much weight, you'd say that's probably on purpose, right?
Yeah, because you got to remember these guys are making $0. I mean, they're making no money. So what's 20-30% of nothing? You know what I mean?
Zero.
So I mean, really think about it. Like how they're not. It's not like they're going to be able to buy a fucking restaurant or something with this purse money. So it's like get a win, stay relevant. I'd rather have you have more paychecks coming than to be your last one. So yeah, I think it was completely on purpose.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, it's Sidi for me too. I think he could. I think he could again finish this fight. Honestly, like, but it might take a little longer this time. It might not be that early, but I do think he could get this fight, stopped again. But yeah, either way, I mean, 8,900, I think is tough. I agree with Mad Lab on the pricing. Like we just talked about Robertson, and it's the same range, kind of 91, 89. So, yeah, you got to kind of rank him a little bit. But Tavares is, he's not I don't think he's a bad fighter. You know what I mean? I don't want to say that. I just think he's not as clean as Sidi is in some of the stand-ups. And I think that's where this fight's going to play out mostly is standing up. So.
All right, that's JSU's today. Tavares take. Drew, what do you have for the numbers and your pick in this one?
Yep, I got Sidi at 26% and 23% for Tavares. And it makes sense why. The inside the distance number relative to the money line is pretty high. So Vegas assumes in Tavares' fights, any of the ones he wins, he's going to finish inside the distance 84% of the time. So there's upside. At the ownership, though, it's a scary fade, but that's a fade. I mean, that's a lot of ownership for a dog. He does have slate-breaking upside, considering those numbers, but at the ownership, you just got to take a stand against it. And today's tough, man. At 8,900, I like it, but 26%. I think that there's a break as you go down into this high eights, which we'll talk about here in a second. So I'm kind of torn on today. I think the ownership's still fine. The upside's still fine. So it remains to be seen. I'll definitely have some exposure. I just don't know how much. But Tavares is a fade for sure.
You like Robertson over Sidi, Drew?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, by a lot.
Yeah, that's Sidi, Tavares. Let's go to the next fight. I think it's going to be a fun one here. Charles Jordane, -210 over Sean Woodson. Should be, I think, a good striking match here. Excited to see this one go down. Let's go to Mad Lab. Your thoughts, Jordane and Woodson.
Yeah, I don't think Jordane should be 9,000 at all in this fight. And it's not even who's the better fighter. When you got to deal with a reach advantage like Woodson has, you got to figure that out. That's something you got to kind of figure out. And that takes time. And with Jordane's style, this is a guy who likes to throw a lot of spinning attacks. He's very unchained. If he can't get that going right out of the gate, that can cause problems for him. And Woodson is a really long fighter. He's a very seasoned boxer. I mean, the guy is freakishly skinny. We all know that. Like the way to take him out is just implore leg kicks, implore leg kicks, implore leg kicks, implore leg kicks. It's not really Jordane's game. I mean, he has them, but this guy is more spinning attacks, spinning back fist, trying to work his way inside. And if Woodson gets that jab going, man, that can really just start eating away at the clock, and that 9,000 price tag starts dwindling big. I think Woodson's live in this spot. I do. It's $7,200, borderline punt play. You're getting a guy with, double-digit reach advantage. You're getting a guy that's got really slick boxing. You're getting a guy that, yeah, he's had some really bad spots, but he's had some really good spots too. If he can really find his comfort zone behind that jab and keep Jordane guessing, he can coast to a victory here, and he's got enough pop in his hands to make something happen and to possibly catch Jordane. I don't know. Like this fight to me scares me a little bit. When I saw that price tag for Jordane, I was a little nervous about it. So I lean a little bit more on Woodson here for the value.
Yeah, I like Woodson here too. I think he can, cruise to victory maybe by outpointing him, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Woodson get a KO either. I do like that price tag, JSU, at 7,200. What are your thoughts on Jordane and Woodson?
Yeah, this is the other fight that I went back and forth on hard because I do think Woodson's live. I don't know about KO. Jordane's tough, man. He is a tough friggin' dude. I think he's going to be tough to put out, especially he's Canadian. His home crowd. I think it's going to be tough to just totally take him out of this. But, like you guys said, if Woodson can stay at range, and keep it there, then, I do think he can win a decision. I think that's where Woodson wins, is a decision fight. So I think if it finishes, it's going to be on Jordane's side. You know what I mean? So I do though like Woodson. I'm going to lean that way after going back and forth, change my mind a bunch of times, like I said on this fight, but I'll lean Woodson by decision. Again, I think if it finishes though, it's definitely Jordane. I think he's a much more dangerous fighter, no matter where the fight goes too. Like if it somehow got on the ground, like Jordane is very dangerous. He could submit Woodson. And I think if, on the feet, I definitely think he's the more dangerous. Like Madlab said, he's got that kind of a little more unchained, wild style, which is tough for some fighters to figure out. But yeah, I'll lean Woodson by decision.
All right, let's go to Drew. Numbers for Jordane and Woodson and your pick on the fight.
Yeah, I got Jordane at 27% and Woodson at 22%. I'm going to side with Jordane here. From a DFS perspective, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to lean more Robertson or go down. But Woodson, I think at the price, like you're hoping for a decision win. I don't see him finishing inside the distance. And there are some other dogs I think have some more finishing upside. So that's probably my main reason for being off of Woodson. Jordane, I think, is actually a little bit undervalued from the finishing upside. If you look at through round 3, his propositions from round 1, 2, and 3 go up to 46% to finish inside the distance versus the actual implied number, which is 39%. So I actually think there's some value on Jordane to finish inside the distance. And again, at 27%, I don't think you're really losing out much. So I'll probably be level with the field, maybe slightly under on Jordane, and then Woodson. For me, at least, it's going to be a fade. I'm not going to play any Woodson.
This would be your path, guys. If you guys are trying to come up with a reason to fade this fight, if you wanted to fade the fight, this is the way I could see this fight being fadeable, successfully fadeable. Is you got Woodson working behind his jab, being more technically sound, but being in Canada, Jordane just having those bigger highlight moments in the round that kind of steal around. And then you got a guy who, won a decision, stole some really close rounds with some spinning back fists, maybe landed a big shot, doesn't cover his value, and then the 7,200 that loses that you don't cover his value. So if you were looking to fade that fight, that would be your excuse to fade the fight.
Yeah, I do think this one is relatively likely to not end up on the winner, no matter who does get the win in the fight. Last fight on the prelims, it is Brad Katona and Garrett Armfield. Katona sitting at minus 225 or so. We'll start with you again, Madlab. Brad Katona, Garrett Armfield, your thoughts here?
This one was kind of just like common sense for me, when I really looked at it. I mean, when you're looking at, a show like The Ultimate Fighter and stuff, it's like that's number one. That's to win that one time. That's a really hard show, but to win that 2 times, that kind of says something about you. Like this kid Katona's a good fighter. The only thing I don't like about him is he trains at SBG. SBG to me is just a garbage camp. I mean, it really is. Like if this kid was training at Syndicate or Kill Cliff or some of these other camps, I think he'd be much, much better off. But it says something about this kid that this kid won the Ultimate Fighter 2 times. I mean, this kid is good. He's smart. He's got good cage IQ. He's intelligent. He knows how to pick and choose his spots. A lot of people shit on him for being boring, and then he had that last fight where it was a fucking barn burner. So he has it in him. Like he has it in him to have these high octane fights when you drag him into it, but he's smart enough to kind of keep you out of those fights and try to make you figure out how to pull him into those fights. So the side I like, I do believe Katona belongs to be the favorite here. Armfield hasn't really beat anybody. I mean, he's had some impressive spots, but against who? You know what I mean? So I do like Katona here. It's just that I'm having a tough time wrestling with that $8,800 price tag. What if he does get pulled into one of those slow, sloppy fights? Like 100+ points, 0-5. His complete average right now is 62. Current market value, 205. So he's hitting at a 40% clip. He's got 5 takedowns in his last 5. Significant strike rate is averaging around 72, but that's all predicated on his last fight where he threw all that volume. That kind of bolstered him up a little bit. So it's a tough spot to be in with this fight, but I do like him as a side, and I think he can be sneaky if people kind of go back and leapfrog that fight and start saying, well, this dude has no volume. This guy's got no pressure. So I'm going to fade him. So it's like a push or pull with this guy. I do like the side, but I'm just not sure how much exposure I'm going to have with him.
Makes sense. Katona, Armfield, your thoughts, JSU?
Yeah, I just think for DFS, I just think there's better fighters in the Katona range for DFS upside than him. And honestly, I think, Mad Lab, I don't think he's given enough respect to the dog. I think the dog is better than what Mad Lab is saying. I think Armfield, honestly, is he great? No, but can he hang in there with Katona and make this a real fight? I definitely think he can. That second fight against David Onama, when he came off the couch or the farm or whatever they were saying, like the dude literally came off on short notice to fight David Onama, who is a very fun fighter with finishing upside. And he hung in there until he gassed out. And actually, he made a mistake. He tried to grapple and wrestle with David Onama, and it just failed. Like he had him, like he had him in a takedown, and then just David Onama just stopped it and literally reversed it into the back. And, that was over real quick. So, I mean, I think he just made a mistake, honestly, and gassed out in the Onama fight. You watch the first round, it was very close. So to me, I kind of throw that fight out because all he really showed is that, like, he didn't have his gas tank right. He showed toughness. I mean, he did get choked out, but he literally got choked out. Like, he was in a head and arm choke, I think it was, and he was in that thing for a while. And David Onama had that, and he was like trying to, grab his leg and his arm, and then eventually he was just out. But I think it showed his toughness a little bit. And then in the next fight, he comes in, knocks the guy out. I don't know. I think he's just at 7,400. I at least think he's got the upside to hang in with Katona and make this a tougher fight and maybe win a decision, which at 7,400, you're going to need a dog on this card. I think you're going to need one of those cheap guys, and he's just one I'll take my shot with here. I think Armfield could win a decision fight against Katona, who again gets into fights where it's like, is he the best fight? He wins fights where sometimes I think he's not the best fighter in the cage. So that's respect to him that he doesn't, like the most talented. He's not the most talented guy, but he does find ways to win fights, which you got to respect, but that's not good for DFS. So I'm going to take Armfield here at 7,400 and take my shot.
I'll make a bold proclamation before Drew goes. If he decides to grapple with Katona, I say Katona submits him.
That'd be a terrible idea.
I'm saying, but if he does what you said, like, sometimes he does, because some people, when they get tired, they panic wrestle. You know what I mean? So if he decides to grapple with Katona, I say Katona subs him.
I could see it. Because he definitely tried to do it with Onama, and Onama was just better. Like he was just better in that, clearly better too. So yeah, I could see it.
Drew, your thoughts here and the numbers on Katona and Armfield?
Yeah, I'm pretty torn from a DFS perspective. I got them both pretty close. I got 20% for Katona, 21% for Armfield. I mean, Katona's inside the distance number, I'm really not that concerned with. I think at 8,800 and the price, like if he wins a decision, if it could, involve some takedowns and control time, I think he can still be on the winner at 8,800. I think there's some leeway there. In Armfield, I wasn't going to play a 21% dog that didn't have finishing upside, but like JSU makes some good points. Like if he can just survive and somehow win the decision, and there's not a lot of dogs that win on this card. If that's the case, you're going to need the one winner. So I might have to have some exposure to Armfield, but overall, I'm really just low on this fight. Definitely other preferences, and it's just kind of what fits in with the Bills this afternoon. I'll take Katona via submission, or I guess decision, but the submission would be the only path I see for a win. Otherwise, it's a pretty mediocre fight from a DFS perspective.
All right, that is Katona and Armfield. Let's get to the main card. Before we do, if you're watching the show, joining us on here on this Saturday morning, hit the like button. We do appreciate it. And if you do want to join us at Run Pierce Sports, you can use promo code New Year. JSU, can you confirm, is New Year still the code? I believe so.
Yes, yeah, I'm pretty sure that is still the code. So if it's not, then you can send DC a DM and heckle him on Twitter. But
there you go.
or send Run Pure Sports a message on Twitter, and
if you want to get a
we'll
response, that's probably your better bet is to go to Run Pure Sports.
No,
but hey,
please.
you can send me a DM.
As much as I love
No,
these
you're
guys,
so January, DC, so you might respond pretty quickly.
It could happen.
Yeah.
as much as I love, bro, these guys are the fucking absolute worst. JSU, not so much. Drew is good. Bro, fucking DC and fucking and Big T are the absolute fucking worst at returning fucking messages and phone calls. Dude, Big T will literally respond to me on Twitter before he responds to me on fucking on a text message.
I mean, Big T is literally on Twitter all the time.
I know. That's how I get a hold of him.
Mad Lab, did it hurt your feelings that it took me 2 days to wish you a Happy New Year? Is that the problem?
Yeah, I fucking message. I'm like the most thoughtful fucking guy. I'm messaging you guys. Merry Christmas, boy.
Yeah, no shit. You can't stop talking.
And this fucking guy comes out like fucking in 2000.
So how am I bad? How am I bad?
No, I didn't say you're bad. I said you're actually
okay.
pretty good. Drew is the best one out of the group. But DC and Big T are the fucking absolute worst, dude. The worst.
When
Like,
me and Big T text back and forth, it's like
my house was burning down.
It's a contest to see who can exit the conversation faster. It's like
Fucking
trying
Christ,
to.
manners.
Yeah,
Trying
if
to
your
pick
house
it up.
is burning down, definitely don't call Big T or DC because
No
they're
way.
not answering first.
They're not gonna
That's
do
for
fucking
sure.
Nothing.
Don't call me at all. I'll say that. Sometimes I'll respond to your text. If you call me though, I'm just pressing the no thank you button. Doesn't matter.
Are you one of those guys, DC? You don't answer the phone calls?
There's very few people I'll pick up the phone for.
Dude, I know a ton
Lab
of
is
people.
not one of them. I'll say that.
I know
Why?
a ton of people
Why? What
who
did I
just
fucking
don't
do to you?
answer the phone. Like they just don't do.
Leave a
phone
voicemail
calls.
if you have something to say.
Why?
I'm
What do you mean?
I'm not listening to that either, by the way.
What do you
No,
mean?
when
I'm not
people
one of
send
them?
me the voicemail, I normally just tell them to fuck off in a voicemail or something like that.
No, I'm saying leave me a voicemail. Like people will call me like repeatedly. It's like leave a voicemail. Don't just keep calling me. I'm
yeah,
not going to pick
I
up.
agree.
It's a voicemail in 2024.
I don't know. Text me then. I don't care. But don't keep calling me. I'm not going to pick up the first time or the third time.
You guys are fucking DC. Real quick, I want to know. What do you mean? Definitely not Mad Lab.
I said there's very few people I'll pick up the phone for, and you're not one of them. I'm sorry.
Why?
It's just the truth. I don't know. It's just,
Yeah. When he
What a
says very
fucking-
few people, it's like his mom, his girlfriend, and like that's probably it. Like literally.
Yeah, and phone calls that I have to pick up. From Boss T, I got to pick up the phone call from Boss T. But Mad Lab, yeah, no thanks. Don't try calling me Mad Lab. It's not going to work.
What a blowjob you are.
Let's go to the main card. We kick off with, I think, a pretty fun fight here between Evloev and Arnold Allen. Allen coming off, what do you have, like 8 or 9 straight wins? Did get beat pretty soundly by Max Holloway. Evloev, I think, has won 6 or 7 straight, all via decision, but some pretty good scores in most of those fights. I think a fun one here. It is Evloev, decent favorite, sitting around -185. Go ahead, Mad Lab, Evloev, and Arnold Allen. What do you got for us?
Yeah, Allen's been in he's been around for a while. I mean, this guy's been flying under the radar for a while. This is a guy who, if you remember back in the day, GSP was training, with the whole, there's really only one really solid team out in Canada. So anybody that comes out of that squad, people kind of look at you as, like OAM, like he's maybe the next GSP, this snap of a buzz. So Allen is a good fighter. I like him. I think he's very athletic. He's smart. He's tough. He's humble. But he showed that there's levels to this, man, when he ended up fighting Holloway in that fight. And he literally I picked Holloway in that fight, but he got beat a lot worse than I thought. Like I thought he was gonna kind of come out and give Holloway something. And he really had nothing for him from his wrestling to his striking to he just in every step, every facet of the game, he got beat in the spots. When you look like a guy at Evloev now, this is a guy where people are saying, yeah, he's good, but who has he really fought? The thing that people are forgetting is that when you look at the Diego Lopes fight, like, yeah, was it a tough fight? Yeah, it was a tough fight, but look how well that aged. Look how good Diego Lopes actually is. You know what I mean? So Diego Lopes is running through people, great submission game, active, cardio for fucking days. And Evloev, yeah, it was a tough fight. He got put in some bad spots, but it's fighting. That's going to happen when you fight a high-level guy. Diego Lopes is a really high-level guy, and I think we can all agree to that now. When I look at this fight, I just see Evloev having too many entrances that Allen's not going to be able to adjust to. His wrestling entrances are insane. His MMA entrances are insane. He's got an entrance for every angle. He's got answers for everything you try to nullify. Allen does not really isn't prone to fight grapplers. Like a lot of the guys he fights are a lot of strikers. You know what I mean? He's never fought a guy who is constantly going to be on his hips, constantly going to be on his hips, constantly going to be on his hips. And I don't think he's going to have an answer for that. I think he'll have an answer for it maybe early, but as this fight starts dwindling down, I think he's going to be playing on the defense a lot more than he's going to be on the offense. And I think Evloev might even kind of run away with this one. I think it's going to be a good fight for as long as it lasts, as far as when does the adjustment period stop, when he just doesn't have any more answers. I like Evloev here, man. Even that $8,700 price tag. I mean, if you look at his last 5 fights, he's got 24 takedowns and his significant strike rate. Usually guys that have that many takedowns, 24 takedowns in 5 fights, their significant strike range should be extremely dwindled. If you look at the chart that I put up on the RPS site, you'll see like everyone's significant strike rates. Some of them are drastically low, 30, 30, 40. His is still up at 72 with 24 takedowns. So he's active on the feet. He's active on the ground. The guy's got a gas tank. He never stops working. I like him here. The $8,700 price tag, I'd like to be 84, 85. But it's hard for me to avoid Evloev in this spot.
Yeah, glad to hear it. I'm on Evloev here too, and he scores really well. Just his style for DFS. JSC will throw it to you, Evloev and Arnold Allen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm locking Evloev. He's my favorite fighter. So 8,700 is just too cheap of a price for a guy like him with the upside that he has, without even being able to finish a fight too, like the upside in a decision win. Just the upside this guy brings with the takedowns, the control time, and he's just always on you. Like Madlab said, he's just constantly on those hits. He's going to really put the pressure on, and I think it's going to be too tough for Allen. As good of a fighter as Allen is, because Allen's no chump. He's a good fighter. I just think Evloev brings the problems that he's not going to have the answers to as this fight goes on. So, yeah, 8,700 for me. I'm definitely going to be playing Evloev on all my lineups. So this will be a big fight for me. I mean, Drew, I would assume that Allen as a dog is going to be a popular dog just off like that price tag, name, everything. This fight's got to be pretty popular, right?
I have Evloev as popular. I don't have Allen as very popular. I have Allen at 12%, Evloev at 32%. So yeah, I mean, it's just, I think people just expect the scoring for Evloev, and at the price at 8,700 fits him into a lot of builds. I think he's probably going to find a lot of optimal lineups and probably a lot in the top 20 of people's sims or whatever lineups they're building. So yeah, Arnold Allen, I don't see myself getting to even at 11%, but Evloev, you guys have talked me on him. He has a great projection. I just looked through like his significant strike props and stuff, like nothing really jumped out. So maybe there's some opportunity there, but yeah, it's just all, it's all scoring in the rounds. There's definitely not a lot of finishing upside.
I mean, he's definitely underpriced. I mean, his last 5 fights, he's averaging 105.5. So he's definitely
exactly. And on a card like this, that's pretty good. Yeah. There's not a lot of in that.
If he's really only 32%, I think he's one of the better.
I was going to say that's almost lower than I thought.
I think so.
Like I was expecting him to be like 40 or 45%, like at least.
I bet he comes in higher than 32, but yeah, but that's just my bias because that's kind of what I think he should be. So
yeah,
I'm in on the Evloev train here. We'll move to the next fight. Should be another exciting one. 2 powerful guys, Chris Curtis, Marc-Andre Barriault. It is Curtis. Decent favorite here, sitting around -185. Let's go to you, Mad Lab, Barriault, and Curtis. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Curtis. I mean, as a person, but as a fighter, you can't deny the guy is good. I mean, he's got really good boxing. He's got clean boxing in the pocket. He's got good range striking. The guy's durable as hell. You need a crowbar to knock him out. When you look at this fight, it just boils down to me is Barriault's tough. We know he's tough. We know he's got a decent gas tank. We know, he's no stranger to wars and pocket fights. But as the fight goes on, who is going to be able to handle the exchanges more? And I just think Curtis. I think Curtis's chin is way too good, in this fight for Barriault. And I think eventually Barriault might crack. You know what I mean? So I think this can be a really, really close fight. A lot of good pocket exchanges. The problem with Curtis is he does tend to be low volume. He has come out and said that like he feels like his back's against the wall a little bit in this fight. He's got to come out and have a better showing. So I'm hoping he comes out a little bit more positive on the offensive end of it. But I think in the pocket exchanges down the stretch, I think he can catch Barriault with something and possibly knock him out. So that price tag is tough, 8,500, because with somebody like Curtis, you know, he hasn't hit the 100+ mark in 5 fights. He's 0-5. His current market value is only at 205. So he's only sitting at around 40% at that price tag against a guy, though, who's going to bring a fight to him. So it's going to make his offensive output by default come out a little bit more. It's really, do you believe that he's going to knock Barriault out? If you do believe that, then he's a good play. If you think Barriault's going to really hang in there, or it's going to be a close fight, maybe a decision or a split decision, then obviously he's not a good play because he's not that kind. He's not volume constructed like that. But I do like him in this spot as far as a winner. I think he could be a dangerous play though with the offense. But I'm definitely going to have my shares of him.
Yeah, just in my mind's eye, I see a Curtis knockout here. But let's go to you, JSU. Your thoughts, Barriault.
And there's something to be said about Champ Camp. You know, there's something to be said about Champ Camp. Your friend is the champion. You're training in a camp with him every day. You know, there's something to be said about the raising of the bar when you have your friend and somebody in your camp that's a champion.
Yeah, and to your point earlier about like, you know, Barriault and the way he fights, it's almost like Curtis was talking about, you know, his back's against the wall, blah, blah. Well, you want someone to bring the fight to Curtis, to bring that out of that offense, that output, that excitement out of Curtis. Well, this is a perfect matchup. It's perfect. So I think Curtis does get the finish too. I'm with Madlab that I think he gets the knockout. And in the fights where he does get the finish, he does score, right? Like that, you've seen that, you know what I mean? 95, 105. Like if he gets you somewhere between 95 and 105, I mean, Drew, I feel like that scoring right there is going to put him, you know, on a slate like this in that optimal, you know. So I think you need a finish out of Curtis for him to pay off that price tag. In my opinion, he's not a guy who's getting there if this fight goes to a decision. But I don't think it does. I think he gets the finish. I agree with Madlab on all of his points. I think he finishes Barriault, you know, who is tough as hell too, but it's just I think it's a bad spot for him, honestly.
Drew, the numbers on Barriault and Curtis, and your lean for this one.
Yeah, I got Curtis at 25% and 22% for Barriault. Yeah, I lean Curtis. It's really dependent on if he finishes the fight or if it goes the distance. Obviously, I don't think Curtis can score as well as Evloev without a finish, so it's really dependent on that. I don't see myself playing a lot of Barriault. I don't see the upside, and I don't see him, even if he wins a decision at the price, I honestly think there's other dogs that I could go to that have more upside or at least have leverage against Barriault's ownership. So I'm going to side with Curtis here for the win. As far as DFS, though, 8,500, I'll likely have exposure to him at the price. But I don't think I really want to go crazy on him as far as overweight. If JSU feels confident on him finishing, which, to be fair, his odds of finishing going into round 2 and 3 jump up significantly by KO. That's worth considering. So 8,500, he's definitely in play. It's just a matter of where you want to put your exposures to Curtis versus Evloev, obviously, is a priority, or someone like Malcolm Gordon, who was the first fight of the night. So Curtis is just kind of in a weird spot. I just don't want to get trapped with getting jammed with like 50% Curtis.
Yeah, I think Curtis does need that early KO to really get there at that price point. So could absolutely get it, but yeah, I totally get your a little bit of reservation there, Drew. 3 more fights to talk about. We go to the ultimate gatekeeper, Neil Magny, big underdog here against Mike Malott. Malott sitting close to minus 400 at this point, minus 375 on DraftKings. 3 fights in a row, all 3 finishes from Mike Malott. He's looked very good so far in his UFC career. Back to you, Mad Lab. What do you got between these two?
This is the fight that I don't like. I don't like this fight from a DraftKings perspective. You know, Magny has fallen into that gatekeeper category. But if you look at all the guys he fought all killers. I mean, all the guys that he's coming the Rachmanovs and stuff like that. He's just accepting fights. But eventually somebody's going to run into his style that it just doesn't mesh well. And the thing that scares me with Malott in this fight is that in his UFC, under the UFC umbrella, this guy has not been out of the first round only one time. You know, in the second round, it was early. You know what I mean? So what happens if Magny extends this fight deep into the second, deep into the third? Now you're in Canada. You're kind of the Canadian face on the card. Your adrenaline starts going. You can't get him out of there. What happens then? You know what I mean? So I'm a little nervous with this fight. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm picking Malott to win the fight, but I would not be shocked if Magny takes this to the cards. Like, I would not be shocked if this is the one fight that Malott just can't get him out of there. You know, Magny is that guy. Magny's that guy that, like, yeah, like if you have the style to really nullify him and to beat him, you absolutely will. A guy like Rachmanov, you know, showed that, you know, but is Malott that guy like in the second and third round? I don't know. We haven't seen it. You know, he's looked great in the first round. He's looked great in the beginning of the second round. But what happens when Magny, who's got an endless gas tank, that's what he's known for, if he starts tick, 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 and just coming forward in the end of the second, then he wins the third. Like, what happens? What happens then? You know, so this fight makes me really nervous. I'm under the field on Malott in this fight. For that reason, I need him to show me that he can get into that third round and beat a guy like Magny before I pull the trigger on him.
Makes sense. JSU, your thoughts here, Malott, Magny?
Yeah, I kind of agree with the reservations that Madlab has with this fight in general. I don't really like Malott a lot as a DFS play because I think this fight could go to the cards. And right now, Malott is plus 500 on FanDuel to win by decision. I mean, I'm going to take stabs at that because I could see this is tricky. And also, when you get a little tired, and Madlab brought this up with a fight before, but sometimes people will just go to, you know, wrestling or clinching up. And the last thing you want to do with Neil Magny is get into like a clinch battle and stuff and get up against the cage where he can kind of hold you and dictate and play his style. And that's what might happen if Malott gets past that early second round and starts to gas out. So that it might honestly play into Magny's strength. So I think that's like I'm sure that's got to be somewhat of a game plan, is like kind of weather that early storm, see if this kid does gas out a little bit, adrenaline, everything. And then you kind of get him in the later rounds and make this, you know, a close decision where even if Malott wins, it's, you know, it's not like, 3-0 all the rounds to him. You know, maybe Magny wins the third or something like that. So, yeah, I think it's Malott by decision, and I don't like it for DFS.
Yeah, you know, one more thing before Drew talks about the numbers. But when you look at this, what's the one thing that Malott is probably looking to do? It's in Canada. He's kind of the guy on the card. He's gonna come in there. He's gonna try to get a highlight reel finish right out of the gate. You know what I mean? He's so bought into this first round and beginning of the second round, like get the crowd to go nuts. If he doesn't get that in the first round, and all of a sudden he goes back to his corner and he's like, "Dude, I just fucking put all I had into this guy, and I couldn't get it." That's what scares me here.
Yeah. JSU, I just bet that plus 500 on FanDuel for a Malott. That seems crazy to me for a fighter who's minus 400 in general and who is facing a guy who has great durability, right? I mean, plus 500 to win by decision seems
it's wild. Like his submission props plus 135 and the KO props plus 310. Like,
great bet.
It's
a great bet. It's a great bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drew, what do you got?
What is it just to go to decision? Just to
200. 200. Like not without the winner.
That's a good bet too, though.
Yeah.
That's a good bet too. I mean, I like your side better, but that's not a bad bet either.
I like that 500 the most. But yeah, totally.
I mean, that's like, though, if you were really worried about who wins the fight,
sure,
I am.
Take the safety of the 200 and it going to decision. Like, if you really think Neil Magny can win that decision and he can get 2 rounds, then yeah, because right now they're both plus 500 to win a decision on FanDuel, which I think is just crazy that Malott has the same odds as Magny.
When he's that big of a favorite, yeah.
When he's that big of a favorite, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, seems nuts to me. Drew, what do you got for numbers and your pick, Malott and Magny?
Yeah, I'm going to lean into Malott here. I got 37% Malott and Magny I have at 9%. I mean, I think the upside is too high to ignore. Even if it does go to decision in the small, it's a small case that it could, and Malott wins in decision, or even Magny wins a decision. I mean, obviously you can have some exposure to Magny, but I think Malott is better than Jasmine, is better than Jillian. If he wins the fight, he's gonna win inside the distance 92% of the time. It could be submission, it could be KO. I think there's versatility there. I hear what you guys are saying on the doubts, but I think if you're looking at this from the cards perspective and even the ownership in the 9K range, the upside of Malott, he's gonna smoke Jordane, Robertson, and Jaduvicious if he has his, upper even 5 percentile outcome. So I'm here on Malott. I'll side with that. I think if I was going to put all my eggs in one basket as far as exposure in the 9K range, it would be Malott. And I think I'd be pretty comfortable if he goes to decision. Even if he loses in decision, I'm just banking on him winning, a very active round 1 or round 2. And trying to get my 5v5 elsewhere correct.
All right, sounds good. It sounds like you're a little more confident in Malott than the other 3 of us. Let's get to the final 2 fights on the card. 2 title fights, although I will say this first one is about as bad of a title fight as you can see in the UFC, at least in my opinion. Mayra Bueno Silva -165 over Raquel Pennington on the vacated belt by Nunez, right? This is Nunez vacated belt, I believe. Mad Lab, Silva, moderate favorite here. This is a weird title fight to me, but talk to us, Bueno Silva and Pennington.
Yeah, this fight, this kind of sums up this whole card. I mean, for a pay-per-view card, it is kind of weak. You know what I mean? So, I would have liked to see this fight headlining
Fight night
card, right? So it's kind of weird. But the one thing I will say is Pennington is deserving of this spot. She's been around for a long time. If there's somebody that deserves to have a shot at a vacant strap, I would say Pennington. I don't see Silva as being a deserving fighter for this spot. I really, really don't. I know she's good. I know she comes from that whole shoot the box camp. I love those guys over there. Like I said, to be in the shoot the box, guy or girl, you have to have that street fighting mentality. She's tough. She's got a good grappling game. She's extremely game. But for my money, I mean, I think this is Pennington's fight to win or lose. I really, really do. I think she's got far more experience. She's very durable. She knows how to make fights greasy in the pocket. She knows how to win cage time, in the clinch. The problem she's going to have in this fight is she's got to stay off her back. Like, if she can stay off her back, I think this is her fight to win. I think she could really, 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 utilize that cage and the smaller cage, pin her up against a cage, stall a little bit, get those little phone booth exchanges with elbows and short chopping, overhand rights and stuff like that. I think this is a fight Pennington absolutely can win. And I think she's deserving of the spot. I think Silva, I really believe this fight was supposed to be Pennington and Juliana Pena. I think that was supposed to be the fight. And then Pena dropped out, and then they ended up putting Silva in as a replacement in this fight. So she just reminds me of somebody like Jamal Hill, who just didn't really deserve the spot. I'm going Pennington here at 7,600. I know she's very low volume, 0-5, 100 plus. But she hit her current market value 3 of 5. She's gonna have to be very active in this fight. She's gonna have to be on her toes, be nimble, stay off her back. I wouldn't be surprised if she secures a takedown of her own in this spot, kind of surprises Silva and gets top control. I think she's got decent enough top control in wrestling to kind of stay safe in certain spots of the cage if she can get it down in the prime spot in the cage. I'm going to go Pennington here. I'm going to go against the masses. I know a lot of people like Silva in this spot, but when you really look at her overall body of work, like, who is she really beating? I mean, she hasn't really beaten anybody to really deserve. That's a beautiful dog to deserve this spot.
Absolutely a beautiful dog, and Mad Lab with the dog pick on Miss Raquel Pennington.
Yeah, that's a sign.
That is a sign, actually. Fuck,
that is a
I
good
might have
sign,
to change my pick. No, I'm kidding, but that is a sign, I will say.
All right. Well, we know JSU leaning Silva. Talk to us, JSU Silva.
Yeah. So I just think that the way Pennington's style is against someone like Silva, I think Silva's just gonna do. She's gonna just do more like, aggressive things to steal rounds in ways where maybe Pennington has her up against the cage, controlling her for a lot of the round. But if she can just do like a damaging blow or something to where it's like who the judges might give that round, because like Pennington really did nothing but control. And I see this fight going kind of that way where it's either a late Mayra Silva finish or a decision where she just does a little bit more of the bigger, more damaging either strikes or, has more chances of finishing at certain points, whether it be, submissions or anything like that. So, it's a good fight. I get why they gave Pennington a shot. She deserves a shot, but I think Bueno Silva is I think she's just too dangerous. It's just too dangerous, everywhere compared to Pennington. And I think it's going to show even if this fight goes to the cards, where I know a lot of people, if it goes to the cards, people like Pennington, yeah, that's probably her best chance. But I don't know with Bueno Silva. I think she's just going to do more of the damaging strikes and be more threatening to where it's like going to be tough to not give it to her, whether it goes to decision or not.
All right. We got disagreement there between Lab and JSU on Silva, Pennington. Break the tie for us, Drew. Who do you got between these two and the numbers for Pennington and Silva?
Yeah, I was going to side with Silva. I got her at 35%, and I have 29% for Pennington. It's a strange card. There's a lot of ownership going to go to these last two fights, and trying to figure out how not to get stuck with a 4v4 is crucial. But yeah, Silva does stand out to me. Even in a decision, I think she's going to score pretty well. But her numbers look pretty good on the floor. I think grappling, her submission number looks good across every round. I have to acknowledge that at the price. So 8,600 for her seems like a pretty good value. Pennington, I'm not worried about finishing, but even at the price, 7,600 to go 5 rounds and then win, I still don't know if that's enough on this card. I think Silva could do it at 8,600, and I think there's some other fighters that are dogs that can score higher. So I'm going to side with Silva here, and I think Pennington at the ownership, approaching 30%. Especially coupled with the next fight we're about to talk about, is it's a really slippery slope from an ownership perspective. You're really chewing into the field in the bigger GPP at least.
One thing.
Yeah, I like Silva.
One thing I will say too is a lot of people talk about Silva's grappling, and yeah, it's good, but she's got 2 takedowns in 9 fights. She hasn't had a takedown in her last 5. You know what I mean? So it's like. That's another thing to look at with her scoring too. If she's not getting takedowns and this fight is kind of choppy and in the clinch and stuff, where does the scoring come on either side? You know what I mean? So that's something to look at too. A lot of people talk about her grappling, how aggressive her grappling is, but she's got 2 takedowns in 9 fights. She hasn't had a takedown in 5 fights. So ultimately, this fight is going to stay probably on the feet. And one thing that Pennington does do that's good, whether she wins or loses, is get in that clinch and stop the bleeding.
Now I will ask this, and this is a good question for JSU, but like on this card, which it's tough to even say, but like I'm sure people would be wondering this, like if they're going to set a rule for one of each of these last 2 fights, because the projections dictate that you're going to need at least one, but likely 2 of these fighters in the last 2 fights. Is that something that you would do? I probably wouldn't set the rule. I would just let it go, but it definitely.
I was going to say,
I
feel like your projections. I feel like almost any projections that you use are going to kind of show that in a lot of your builds, where you're going to get at least one of these 2 fights in your builds, and in a lot of times 2. You know what I mean?
Especially at the prices.
The price tag.
They're going to love the projection, the salary. So,
yeah,
it's just tough.
If you like the dog, but like even then, like 70. What's Pennington? 76, 7,800. Like,
yeah.
If she does win, it's going to be tough to see her. You're going to need a few dogs to like really, have big finishes for her not to be on the card, even in a decision.
That's what I think too. I know Drew seems like Drew slightly disagrees with that, but 7,600 if you win on 5 rounds. Seems like you're going to have a decent score. I know she's not the highest scoring fighter, but
that's what I mean. It's like I just kept going back to that. Like I know somebody in the chat just said something about her submissions coming a lot from striking and standing and stuff like that. And yeah, it's all well and good, but Pennington hasn't been submitted since 2012. You know what I mean? Like she's in 26, 27 fights. She's been submitted one time. I just see her being too crafty and too intelligent of a veteran to be caught in something like that. You know what I mean?
Holly Holmes got caught, and I think people would have said the same. And I was on the home side, so like I think people would have said the same exact thing about her when that question was asked. I think it would have been the same exact.
Yeah, but Holly Holm is not a good inside fighter. Holly Holm is a range fighter.
You're talking
about someone in Pennington who makes her money in the clinch.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, should be interesting there. Pennington and Silva. I guess I'll make it a tie. I'll lean the Pennington side with Mad Lab on that one. Let's get to the final fight on the card. Obviously, title fight here. Big one between Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis. Essentially a straight up pick 'em per the odds at the moment. I'm excited to watch this fight. I can see it going down either way. But we'll throw it to you first, Mad Lab. What do you got between these two in the middleweight title fight?
I will say this, the UFC marketing machine really dropped the ball on this because they had the perfect storyline with the animosity and how much these guys hated each other. Then all of a sudden they started marketing them, hugging in the hallways and apologizing to each other. Like that was the worst fucking marketing thing they could have done.
I think I was at the Vegas presser when there was Stresser and du Plessis were up there, and it seemed like du Plessis was he was shook from what Strickland was saying. And it seems to me that this hugging thing, Mad Lab, it seems like it's like du Plessis like wants to be friends with Strickland. Like he's, I don't know. I think Strickland is in du Plessis' head. That's
I'm just gonna throw it out there, but they don't seem like they'd be like buddies, like outside of the cage.
No, they wouldn't be buddies. But I'm saying, but if you saw, I don't know if they had that one footage where Strickland was sitting in the hotel lobby and Dricus was coming out with his wife, and Sean got up and he's like, you know, man, thank you so much for understanding and this, that. And I'm like, dude, don't show that. Like, this is the last fucking thing you want to show.
I agree.
You know, but I do think that the reason why Dricus kind of bailed out on that a little bit was because I think DC, I think you're both right. Like, I think when somebody threatens you with murder with that kind of mindset that he has, because he would fucking do it, I think that kind of shakes you a little bit. Like, look, once we get locked in the cage, it's a different story. But outside the cage, I have no idea what this guy's capable of. He's in my hotel or he's around the vicinity. Let's back up a little bit. So I do think he rattled him a little bit there. Dricus looked like he was in great shape. Listen, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm missing the train on this guy. I just don't think Dricus is that good. Like, I think he's a good fighter. I think he's athletic. I think he's got good power. But he's just never wowed me. Like, this guy has never fucking wowed me. And maybe I'm missing something. I've missed fighters before, and I've been on fighters that I probably shouldn't have before. It's just a guy that I just feel like if he doesn't get to Sean Strickland early, he's going to be like a bull in a china shop, and Sean Strickland is just going to fucking chew him up in the third, fourth, and fifth round. That's the way I'm seeing this going. Like, I'm seeing Dricus has to get to him early. And if he doesn't, it's going to be just like a bull in a china shop, swinging at the fences, loading up on his punches. And Strickland is just going to be sitting back and just tagging him at range. He's going to probably panic shot Strickland a couple times. And Strickland's grappling and takedown defense is very, very high level. Before he was this Sean Strickland back in the day, that's what he was known for, his grappling. You know, he trains hard. He's in the gym every day, sparring hard, which I'm not a big fan of, but I don't know, man. Like, maybe I'm missing a boat here, but I love Strickland in this spot. I really, really do. I love Strickland in this spot. I love the price for both guys. Both of these guys, you can't go wrong if they win at 8,200, 8,000. I mean, it's right in the middle of the board with these guys. So whoever wins is without a doubt probably covering their value. And I don't see this going to the cards. I see this either being a Dricus, a du Plessis early, 1 or 2 rounds. Anything after that, I think the third, fourth, and fifth round, it's fucking Strickland's playground.
I lean Strickland as well. Let's go to UGSU. Who do you got between these two?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to make it 3 for 3 on Strickland. And I see it as like a late finish too, like Mad Lab, 4th or 5th round, maybe 3rd, but like 4th or 5th round. du Plessis kind of puts everything into those early, 2 rounds. And then Strickland just, starts to overwhelm him a bit. You know what I mean? Because, Dricus is, listen, the dude is powerful. Like, the dude is very powerful. He's athletic too. So you put those two together. He's definitely one of those guys. Like, I think Sean Strickland, though, is overall just the better fighter. And Mad Lab talked about the takedown defense and what he was known for before. He was this style of Strickland. Like, that's all 100% right. I think people kind of forget about it because they've seen a lot of this Sean Strickland, so they kind of forget. But man, I think he's just all around. I think he's just a better fighter here. So I got to go with Strickland here, and I think he does get the finish. So yeah, that's who I'm on. That's who I'm going to be betting. But I can't wait for this fight. Like honestly, there's only like a couple fights on this card where I'm like, I can't wait to watch. I am excited to watch the Strickland fight. You know what I mean? And the Evloev fight. But outside of a couple fights, this card is lackluster. I will say that.
Yeah, one more thing I want to add with that too is that this is how bad the media has become. Like the people asking the questions. The one guy said to Drickus, he's like, "What do you say to the people that say that, like, will his cardio last? Like, we haven't seen you in this kind of a spot yet." And he's like, "Well, I would tell you to revert back to my 3-round fight where I did last." And the media should have came back and said, "Well, this isn't a 3-round fight, pal. This is a 5-round fight. You have 2 more rounds after that 3 rounds that we've never seen. And we know Strickland can go fucking 10 rounds if he has to." So that's what it is. There's just too many question marks for me with this guy. Like I said, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll come on next week's show and I'll say I'm fucking dead wrong. I'm just not sold on this guy at all.
Yeah, we got 3 picks on Strickland's side. Let's go to you, Drew. Where do you lean between Strickland and Duplessis?
It's tough. It's tough. I kind of lean Duplessis. But I'll get to the numbers. So I got Strickland at 32.5% and Duplessis at 38%. I will, just highlight your guys' thoughts on like the round by round. So Strickland and Duplessis round 1, round 2, round 3 are pretty close. Plessis is a little bit of a favorite in round 1 and round 2. And then by round 4 and 5, like he substantially increases his probability of winning. Strickland does. So again, I think there's 2 sides to this fight. It's exactly what Mad Lab said. It's Duplessis finishes in round 2 or 3, probably. I think the Vegas average is round 3 right now. But if it goes longer than round 3, this is Strickland's fight. So I'm really torn. The ownership's high. You got to have exposure to this fight. I think it's tough. So I'm going to be the oddball out, I guess, and say Duplessis. I just think Strickland, since COVID, he's gone to another level mentally. I just struggle to see how he does in the opening first 2 rounds. But after that, man, it's Strickland's game. If he lasts through round 3, Strickland wins this fight.
All right, that'll do it for UFC 297. Should be a fun card. Hopefully see some of you guys at the top of the standings. Hopefully we'll be there with you as well. Appreciate you guys watching as always. I believe we'll be back next week. Should be same time, same place to break down all the fights. Hit the like button on the way out if you haven't done so yet. And if you do want to join Run for Your Sports, you can use promo code New Year for 15% off your first weekly or monthly payment. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining in today for Mad Lab, for JSU, for Red Kachik. I'm Draft Cheat, and we're out of here.